Hello and a good day to all listeners. I hope you had interesting insights already. And I would like to add an insight to this into the advantages of creative thinking, using the example of transdisciplinary project approaches in the tourism industry. But first, my name is Professor Achim Hack. I'm the Dean of the Faculty of Design at the Wismar University of Applied Sciences, Technology, Business and Design. My professorship is for interior architecture, and I'm a specialist of furniture and interior, construction and design. My research interest is in the field of transdisciplinary project work since 2013. For this, creativity in the classic development process. Creativity can do much more than just determine the form, promote manageability, and improve understanding. Creativity can change the entire process, implement new methods, influence strategies, and thus change the entire development process of a product or service. Our first project on this topic at the University of Wismar dealt with these phenomena on the more academic level. We examined classic development processes and management projects of real existing companies with interdisciplinary and international considered student groups. In the next step, we developed a further project on this basis described, in order to develop a service offer from the knowledge gained, which should enable SMEs to fall back on the resources of the creative industry and to carry out successful project development in association with the participating disciplines. I try to explain to you a little bit closer. For your better understanding, I would like to briefly explain the classic development process for products and services. As you can see here in that illustration, usually the activity is triggered either by the economic necessity or by a technical innovation, seldom by the design-driven process. The process in the fields of the classic disciplines follows normally step by step without direct feedback. Either the economic will start the process and the engineer follows and the designer ends, or the engineer begins, the economic follows and the designer ends. At the end of that process step, the result will be evaluated every time and the development step corrected if necessary. But such development strategies require a relatively long time, had a lot of struggle in the process, and hardly produce surprising results. Most of the results are well-known results and everybody gets what he is expecting. So it must be taken into account that the classification of the classic disciplines extends not only to the actual profession, as you see in the middle of that illustration, but also to the language used, the formulation of the task, and the use of the perspective problem-solving method. Because of each of that disciplines, in their different profession, of course, have different languages. They can't talk to each other, and they can't understand each other very easily. They are acting with different tasks, and if somebody has the task to do a better product, the other one wants to have a more interesting product, and the third one wants to have a more intelligent product. So the task is different, the language is different, the profession is different, and of course the method, because of the economics, always are gaining for the best solving. The engineers are gaining for the most intelligent and the designers for the most interesting result. As I said, the result of such processes is seldom surprising. Nevertheless, the strategy enables targeted product developments. and a constant increase in technical perfection. The improvement of handling, as you can see here, and the constant integration of technical innovations. You see step by step the coffee machine becomes more complicated, more comfortable and more technical. The coffee machine can be controlled with a smartphone. A car, for example, can be guided to its destination via smart app, and our refrigerators can independently order milk when it is empty. However, the coffee machine remains a coffee machine, the car remains a car, and the refrigerator remains just that. A real innovation is only possible if things are questioned, checked for their necessity and their task, and, if necessary, replaced by completely different processes, not only changing one coffee machine by the other one, but maybe changing the complete process to get a completely other result for a completely other solution of the problem. To make this possible, those involved in the process must learn to recognize and understand the language, the task, and the methodology of the other disciplines, and to allow a discourse in the sense of process optimization. Not product optimization, but process optimization in the first step. This task is certainly not an easy one. Nobody was able to gain transdisciplinary process experience during their training and their studies. Realistic training courses in cooperation beyond just one discipline could only rarely be completed. Normally nobody has experiences in that way, and so industrial product evaluation every time is the same, as we know. This makes this task all the more important to show SMEs the opportunity for transdisciplinary development work. But beware, transdisciplinary thinking could question your experiences and in the worst case change your thinking. As you can see in that picture, nobody expected this solution for creating a new coffee machine. But if you are thinking about coffee drinking, about coffee taste and coffee smell, maybe it comes to that result and it is completely different from that what everybody expected. But can this approach also be applied to the development of municipalities? Could tasks such as the development of attractiveness, quality of life, satisfaction of the population as well as the visitors, in harmony with sustainable and future-oriented urban development, be done more easily through transdisciplinary strategies and, at the end of the day, even more successfully? This is a question because of between all that aspects, all that new aspects, the creativity can only be a handling method, a handling system, but it's also not the solution. For that and to do this, it is of course first of all important to know those involved in the process and to understand their interaction. This is certainly not as easy as with the product or service development process as we have seen before. It is precisely the involvement of the population, who in this case must be viewed as both an actor on the one side and the consumer on the other side, beside all the consumers we are thinking about. That will certainly make this process description a lot more complicated as the older one. All partners have to be considered with their respective desires, interests and requirements, and in the end the result or the goal is likely to be very different for everyone involved, because of designers have other ideas to reach. Municipality has to take care about their rights and about their inhabitants. The companies are thinking all about the earning money, and the inhabitants about the quality of their life. But this is the only way to see visitors as guests and to integrate them into daily life. To develop accommodations for these guests that not only have external local characteristics but also spread an appropriate atmosphere through local integration and thus also convey typical local life, the special handling of the location. It is not enough to serve a beautiful and richly set table with local specialties and let it up to the user, in this case the tourist, to think about the atmosphere, the feeling and the community with the inhabitants' population. Even the most well-organized programs for entertainment, sporting exercises or cultural edification can never replace the experience and the images that arise from a walk with a local friend or acquaintance through the evening street of a port city. Accordingly, in the interests of the successful strategy for improving the tourism brand of a municipality, it would be important not only to consider and question the partners involved in the process, but also to include them in the development and implementation. However, this can only succeed if one knows and understands the scope, the language, the interest and the method of the contestants and is ready to embark on the experiment. So we have to think about all of the stakeholders in that process, and their participation and integration is absolutely necessary for get a collaboration and to get a worthwhile result at the end. Perhaps it is then possible to actually sit at a table together, exchange experiences, learn from one another and listen to one another, because only lived hospitality can be of interest to guests. Only lived history can be authentically, and only cultural and culinary delights that are really experienced can be successfully praised as such. Because guests who feel welcome to share the experiences, even the places, the pleasure and the charms of the landscape with the inhabitants, feel at home and are invited to come back next year and step by step becoming from a welcome guest to a welcome friend. Because it should be not only the place, not just the pleasure, and not just the cultural or scenic attractions that make a day an experience. It is always the moods, the sensations, the smells, the noises, the longings that burn into our memories and thus create the unforgettable experiences. As we can see on this picture, it is more the smell of the sea, the wind in your hair and the sand in your feet that is the experience, and not just the sportific sensation to go by a bike on the beach. Because it's not just the places, not the pleasures and the methods, perhaps then in transdisciplinary cooperation it will also be possible to master the new challenges we can see here of a new interpreted tourism with all the constraints and conditions, and to create unforgettable experiences that are worth living in it. Other than in that picture, maybe designers and inhabitants and the communities and the consumers together will create a new experience which is possible in our daily life, in the life of our days, and maybe it is more worthwhile to live in than the picture we see here. So at the end, thanks for your patience. I hope I managed to create a few pictures arouse a few longings, and perhaps change a few future development processes physiologically. I wish you a nice event. Goodbye for today, and maybe we can have a short talk after that.